Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks again for joining me for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast. But before we get started, I want to give a quick shout out to one of the sponsors of the Extreme Performance Outdoor Network, being onX. And for those of you that aren't currently using the onX app to track your favorite hunting spots and enjoy a lot of the tools and benefits that come with the app, you really should look into it, because not only is it a great tool to keep track of all of those things and monitor where you're at, it's also a good tool to also scout future potential hunting spots too, and see who you need to contact to gain permission and so on and so forth. So there's lots of great benefits to having the app. If you don't currently have a subscription, then you just go to onxmaps.com and enter HXP20 to get a discount on a new subscription, and always know where you stand with onX. I'd also like to give a quick shout out to Bobby Yaga Crafts out of Poland for continuing to support the Falconry Chronicles podcast. And whether or not you're in the market for some hybrid jesses, which change from used to field by twisting the swivel slit, or getting some 100% hand-sewn made-to-measure gloves, or getting some of those really nice custom anklets with the Marshall Easy Twist nuts sewn into them, he can take care of you for sure. And listeners of the Falconry Chronicles podcast just need to either mention the podcast or type in the word Chronicles in their message to him when placing their order, and you'll get free shipping. So look him up at Bobby Yaga Goshawk on Instagram, or send him an email at the email that's listed on our website at falconrychronicles.com, and he'll get you taken care of. Now on to this next episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast.
We run all the way up this hill. We're stopping, I'm panting. I can't breathe. You're running with all your gear on, and dog flushes the rabbit. So it's a reflush. Back down the hill the rabbit goes. We're all running. Birds flying, dogs running. I'm running, and the dog. The way that he was, the way that they open, they're crying, running after game. That sound, it hit my heart, and I was smiling ear to ear, just running through the woods, like not a care in the world, but chasing a bunny. It was so much freaking fun.
Hey everyone, this episode is going to take us back to the world of dachshunds again, and our guest for this episode, Madison, was kind enough to make the drive all the way from eastern Tennessee to New Jersey, where we recorded a lot of the initial episodes for this ongoing dachshund series, and she was nice enough to share what these little dogs mean to her as well, and talk about some of the good and bad experiences she's had in the world of dachshunds and falconry as well. And so we're just going to jump right into this episode with Madison, and I hope you are continuing to enjoy this ongoing dachshund series, because we definitely have more coming up. So anyway, here we go.
How long did it take you to get here?
It took total about 13 hours. It's about a 12-hour drive. But we had the two dachshunds that I have with us, so it took quite a bit longer.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know about you. The last time I took a really long trip with my two, I was, granted the extenuating circumstances were making me kind of stop every hour or two just to get them out, because they had the runs real bad and I was traveling with them. But anyway, yeah, and I was just curious because you're from Tennessee, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, East Tennessee.
All right. So did you make the trip out mainly because of this, or did you just make it kind of an adjunct thing because it was something else you already kind of had planned to go to? Whatever? Nah,
this was the reason. Yeah, Casey sent me the invite, and I was like, sure, why not? So drove up. Yesterday we spent, since we made a trip out of it, went to New York and ate the best freaking pizza ever. So yeah, but this was the reason.
I can't believe you drove 12 hours all the way. That's cool. I'm thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought about it too whenever we were driving up here from the Airbnb. I was like, man, like it makes it easy for you doing a podcast because you get people from all over, willing to drive instead of having to drive to us, So
I commend you because, and I think I seriously, in all sincerity, thank you very much for that, because
absolutely.
Yes, you've been listening. You said you listened to the podcast and stuff, but I mean, I do literally go all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
So anytime anybody is willing to come to me, whether it's at, where I live or here or whatever, yeah, it's always nice because anytime I don't have to tear down and set up like 20,000 times
100%.
in between, yeah, it's always nice. But so thank you for being willing to do that. I almost feel a little bit bad because had I known that you lived in Tennessee, I mean, I live in Southern Indiana. So, I mean, it's a little, but I mean, if you're able to make a whole weekend trip out of it, I don't feel quite as bad.
Yeah, no, I'm with Mr. Travel over here. He loves to go everywhere. So
nice.
we made a big trip out of it. So it's nice.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't feel quite as bad.
Nah.
So
it worked out.
Yeah. So what part of Tennessee are you from again?
East Tennessee. So just south of Knoxville.
Okay. Yeah. I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, most of the people that I've hawked with in Tennessee are, guys like Fincher and stuff that live close to Nashville and stuff like that. I don't think I've really hawked or really gotten together with anybody. And I know, doesn't like Austin Motes and some of those guys live out
closer to that area. Yeah. Trey Walker, he's in Maryville, actually. That's the same town. We live in the same town. We never met, which is crazy, but he's the president of or part of the Tennessee Falconers Association.
Yeah. New club.
So,
Just formed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I hear that's been kind of a fun process.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I haven't been really part of it. But we were supposed to go to the picnic that was just a couple weeks ago, and my truck was acting stupid.
Took a dump on you?
Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to drive an hour and a half out there and then get break down in the middle of nowhere out there. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a bunch of really good guys. They're all, really putting a lot of effort into the club. And I'm so appreciative of it because we hadn't had one for so long, So it's really nice to have, resources and especially people wanting to get into the sport, and it's just, we didn't really have the resources to give those people. It's just kind of like throwing falconers at them here and there, but now it's now that it's more governed, it's really good for new people.
Yeah. And I've talked about this before many times, but I mean, people don't really understand all the work that goes into running a club.
No.
I mean, there's
the drama.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work getting even just a handful of people on the same page and the same point of view and the compromise that's involved and the time that's involved.
Yeah. So much self-sacrifice too, just for, which I really love, because it really shows how much people care about the sport. You're willing to sacrifice like so much of your personal life to, bring about something that can benefit so many people, and I always think I'm always so appreciative of like, club members and stuff that put a lot of effort into it. So I'm trying to be really supportive. Going up to the Virginia Falconry meets for the last couple of years. Went to Maryland. That's how I met Casey. Well, we've been friends for a long time, but actually met in person. Met Teddy up there, now Tennessee with Jeff and David, just really glad for all those people.
Yeah, and I recently just kind of became involved with the Indiana State Club. I mean, I kind of have always helped with our local meet and stuff each year that I've been in the sport and things like that. But like, this is my first like official like role within the club.
Yeah.
I'm helping kind of put together our twice a year, publication and stuff. And that was a whole other learning curve in and of itself. Cause, they're just, I mean, everybody knows that I do this and they're just like, well, you're good with, the digital stuff, blah, blah, you should do that because, just because obviously you do audio stuff totally means you can lay out like, all this other stuff or whatever. Yeah. And I'm just like, I've never done that before in my life. So, I mean, basically I've been learning a lot of that on the fly and yeah, I mean, basically all of these different things, whether it's contacting vendors for donations to your raffles and going back and forth with your state DNR falconry coordinator and all these different things, like people don't realize that.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these different clubs, I think there's some degree of like mysticism, what some clubs can do to attract members or to kind of, I don't know, appease members, and what all they really need to do is be transparent.
Yeah.
Like be more transparent so they know what all the work and like where the dues money's going.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But I mean, is the whole process getting close for you all? I mean, I see updates every so often, but
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been as involved as I probably should have been. But yeah, as far as like it's in full swing now. You know, they're all set up, so that's super exciting.
I'm sure you'll get your turn if you really want to, do your part.
Yeah, I would love to. You know, I'm single mom, and falconry is obviously my passion. So it's like all my spare time goes into dogs and my kid and hunting and all that. So I would like to eventually, whenever I can free. Oh, and I'm doing school full time too. So that it's a lot of time consumed. But once I'm done with that, 100% be involved in the clubs and actually get my opportunity to serve and be part of it would be super cool.
I'm sure they'll welcome you with open arms.
Yeah.
Whenever the time's good.
Everybody needs an extra hand to help, a level head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and different perspectives coming in at different times can help, and getting that fresh new blood sometimes, because I mean, you need everybody at some point in time to step up with some of that club management, and people, like I said, don't realize just the burnout factor can be real.
Oh, 100%. Well, yeah, you deal with so many people. It's just like anything in life, really.
Yeah, I mean, it helps to have multiple people over time being willing to fulfill these different roles. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, man. Like I said, starting up a brand new club, I know that's a ton of work. So, I mean, I'm glad that the Tennessee's finally getting that done. I know it's kind of been, something that's just kind of, I don't know if it's really how it's really affected you all. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I know having an established club that has a good relationship with our, DNR people and everything, it really does help. Yeah. A lot.
Yeah. They're working so hard, really working with TWRA, for changing stuff and getting things more clear for falconers too. Just because there for a while it was just like operating off of like all the old rules, and nobody in TWRA knew like what falconers were even doing, So the club has been instrumental in fixing that and getting everything set up for everybody. So super appreciative of it.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to school for right now?
Business management.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you trying to do with that after it's all said and done?
Really, right now, I'm just trying to get through school.
Yeah, fair enough.
I originally had a plan. That plan fell through. Now it's just kind of, I'm actually working for the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation. Mm-hmm. So that's, getting into government, getting into the state, which has been really great. But the business management just helped, move that up. And if I want to transfer into more of like the environmental scientist role of things, then that'll allow me to do that, which would be super cool. Because now that I'm in, I'm like understanding a lot of different divisions in the like in TDEC, and there's some really cool opportunities to get in for environment conservation. So yeah.
Well, what age were you whenever you got into falconry then?
I was 14. Yeah, so a long time ago. It's so random. People always, that's the first question people ask, how'd you get into falconry? Yeah. And I always say like, I read a book. And most people would be like, my side of the mountain? Nah, but it was a medieval time frame book called The Wakefield Dynasties. And it mentioned falconry in the brief, like it was maybe a paragraph. And for whatever reason, I was like, what is this? Like, I have to know more about it, So I looked it up and I realized people, still did it today. And at that point in time, I was like, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I don't care what it takes. That's what I want to do. My parents were totally blind to it. They were like, what is this? But they were pretty supportive of it. And so I just started studying for it. I graduated high school early, so I went to work for the American Eagle Foundation, which is located in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And so I started working with birds of prey, doing education programs. I got the opportunity to travel with the bald eagle and fly him in the football stadiums and stuff whenever they were doing that for the national anthem. That was super fun. Just really cool experiences. So that was kind of my first introductory. And then my sponsor, Mike Acuff, He's East Tennessee native, and he's the one that he originally, I met him, and I was like, will you sponsor me? And he was like, no, I'm not sponsoring anybody. He was dead set. And I was like, what? He was like, well, you can come, see my muse and see my bird. He had a goshawk at the time. And so I showed up, and he started asking me questions. And every question he asked, I'd answer. He was asking me stuff from like our study book, and I'd answer everything. And I was like just this eager little kid, stars in my eyes. And he was like, all right, nice to meet you, and everything, kind of shooed me out the door. And a day later called me. He's like, I'll sponsor you, And ever since then, he's been like a dad to me. He's been such a huge impact in my falconry. Obviously, being a sponsor, but just even in my personal life, he's been so instrumental. So he and I worked at the American Eagle Foundation together, and we did the bird shows at Dollywood. So I got, a lot of experience doing like stage stuff and education programs. We'd go do education programs for like the Boys and Girls Clubs and stuff like that. So yeah, that was all like the beginning of it. And then got, trapped my first red tail, lost my first red tail. Then has kind of just snowballed from there, and now I haven't regretted anything in my falconry life. I love every single moment of it. Like even just the highs and lows that we talk about, losing birds, losing dogs, hurts so bad, leaves holes in your hearts, but still, it's worth it. Every single second of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that you can always tell who's going to probably last and who isn't going to last over the years by, there's some people that just get so much more crushed than other people.
Yeah.
Like whenever the bad stuff happens. Yeah. And you're just like, I don't know if they're, Yeah. And you
it
have
takes
to.
A toll on you.
Well, you have to harden your heart a little bit.
You got to.
Yeah.
These are wild animals, they die all the time, and you can't tie your heart too much for it. Even our dogs, you get way more attached to, I feel like.
Of course.
Obviously.
Yeah,
they're more of like soul partners, but even still these, when I got my first dachshund, I said, if this dog dies in the field, like I have to be okay with that, but he will die doing what he loves and what he was meant to do, and that's how we think about our birds too. It's just, they land on the wrong wire and get electrocuted, they slam into something, just barbed wire fence, whatever. And you gotta, like you said, you gotta harden your heart to it a little bit and just, you cry it out and then, you get on that horse and you get a next bird, keep going with it.
Or not. I mean, depending on...
or not. Unless you bow out and you're like, yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah. I mean, and there's been plenty of people that I know have done that too.
Yeah.
And I mean, understandably so. I mean, it's not, even if people can kind of go through the introductory years and kind of get through X amount of time, long term, even, it's life changes, circumstances change, and it doesn't always end up being for everybody.
Yeah.
Long term at least.
Yeah.
But so like whenever you were doing all the bird shows and going through, I mean, were you still like a teenager at that time, or like what was the timeline when you were doing all the other, show things and stuff?
Yeah, so I did that from 17 to 21. So it was a good 4 years, and I feel like I say this a lot because I traveled so much. I went to so many cities doing, football games and black tie events and stuff, flying the eagle. And I don't know why, in my head, I was just like, this is normal, and I was like, now looking back, I'm like, why didn't I take advantage of like so many opportunities? I could have made that, so much bigger, but I was just like, whatever, about it. But I loved it. It was so full. It was so much fun and so full of opportunities.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of the people, I feel bad for a lot of people that don't get to do a lot of traveling or just don't want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't feel bad for the people that just don't want to, because that's their prerogative. But like the people that want to and don't get to, I do feel bad for, because I can't imagine where I would be mentally in my life right now if I hadn't gotten a chance to do things like this and get a chance to travel and meet all these different people. And the weird thing about it, I don't know about you, but I mean, I'm actually more of I'm more of an introvert by nature.
100%.
Yeah, I'm not normally very, super social person, but for some reason, whenever I get around, just a handful of other people, especially that I can get to know a little bit or whatever, I don't mind doing the socializing thing, but big groups of people still, not so much. But I think that it really matters for people to kind of go and see what other people are doing in other parts of the world, and so that they can, they can appreciate what they have and what they're, what they could have if they're not, I mean, I don't really know how else to say it. I mean, it's nice. It's nice getting different perspectives from different people and what they have or don't have. It makes you appreciate more what you do have. So.
Yeah, definitely. There's always opportunity for learning too, and even just, you say, like regular people, but everybody has something to contribute, you know, and especially in falconry. I love that about our sport. It's like no matter who you meet, there's some crazies,
Yeah,
but
in all aspects of the world, yes, there always will be.
But for the most part, everybody has something to contribute. Everybody has at least some sort of piece of advice, something you never heard about, to say. And, I love that, always just keep your ears open, ready and your heart humble, ready to listen to what other people say. And, you go a lot farther in life that way.
Sure. Well, and I have to ask this too. As a 14-year-old young girl, how much of a hard sell was this to your parents trying to, be able to get them to be on board and okay with your sponsorship and all these other things?
Yeah, they, like I said, they were supportive. They just had no idea what it was. Like I would tell them things, they had no idea what it was. But yeah, once I started into the sport and, like I said, Mike would come pick me up, take me out trapping, everything like that. So they were obviously, I'm getting in the truck with, a 60-year-old guy and they're like, what the heck is happening? But I think it was just a God thing, really. Like it just, everything just went, just so perfectly, like how it should have been. That's why I say, like, people ask me how you get in falconry. I was just like, it kind of just happened. Like I wanted it and it just happened. Like it just was given to me and I'm so blessed by that. Yeah.
And it's nice to hear stories like yours that everything went smoothly, things went well.
Yeah, not everybody has that story.
There wasn't like any like major like drama kind of involved with, because everybody obviously in that situation, I wants to kind of assume other, like the worst could happen in situations like that. And it was cool. It's cool to hear that wasn't, the case for you.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, there's definitely hardships as far as like losing birds. I've had my first bird, his name was Artemis, and I took him out. I was so new. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, really. Like Mike was there for me, he helped me, but he didn't go out hunting with me in the beginning. Like he would tell me everything I needed to know. I call him, ask him questions, he'd tell me everything I needed to know. But the first few times I went out hunting, I went by myself. And another falconer volunteered to go out with me to take this bird. And we went out. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning, right? That's a red tail. Well, 10 o'clock hits. What happens? It's sore weather, All of a sudden, that bird, I look, he goes, "Where's your bird?" And I was like, "What the heck?" And I start looking up. He's soaring with vultures. And it was just, phew, gone. He goes, "We're watching." Like maybe a minute goes by. He goes, "Yeah, you better pull out your lure." And I'm like, I'm swinging my heart out, This bird is gone. We drove for days looking for that bird. Could not find it. A couple days later, somebody reported the bird in Cades Cove, and which is a national park in Tennessee. And it had Jess's on. I was like, yeah. Everybody's asking me, is this your, at work, is this your bird? I'm like, yeah. It's like so shameful as like a first-year falconer. But they report him again. He had already picked his Jess's off. He's fine, happy, living his life, But you would think like that would be something that would like deter a kid, you know, like that's a failure, you know, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I was like, I'm getting another, like, I got to go again, you know, and I'm really glad that I did, because I've had some really, really good birds. And, you know, I always tell that story, like, for people, you know, getting into the sport too, you know, like if you lose a bird, it's not the end of the world. You know, those birds they're going to pick their jesses off, you know, they're going to be okay. They're going to survive, you know, not that that should ever happen. It shouldn't, you know, and the fact that I was out with like he was a master falconer too. And I still hold a grudge against him to this day.
Well, yeah, and the thing is too is sometimes even the more experienced people, especially if it's somebody that's not your sponsor, is out with you. Sometimes it's hard to determine where the line is and when.
Yeah,
you know,
like what to instruct people.
Exactly,
yeah.
And like, is it really my place to tell her that she needs to get the damn bird down like ASAP? You know,
yeah,
and things like that, and yeah, I mean, it's kind of because I mean, Falconers we're kind of we can be a little bit of a sensitive bunch from time to time, you know?
100%.
And so
nobody likes being told what that they're doing something wrong anyway.
Exactly,
Yeah.
It's human nature.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, as we've said many times before, I mean, you learn from your failures, you don't learn from your successes.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was great though that you were able to take that experience as a positive and continue on. And yeah, I mean, it's a big reason why we use the type of equipment that we make. I mean,
exactly.
I mean, we use this kind of leather and different stuff because it's going to eventually rot off and the bird's going to go back to just being, you know, it in the wild and whatever. And yeah, I mean, I guess it showed, I mean, for being such a young person, I mean, on your part, I mean, it showed a degree of maturity that even some people in their adult.
I'll tell you, I've never flown a red tail past 9 a.m. again.
Yeah, well, there you go. I mean, and that's the thing is everybody's allowed to make some mistakes, or it's just taken for granted that people are going to make certain mistakes, and they're definitely going to make them once.
Yeah.
But it's whenever you start making them more than once and you don't learn from those lessons that you kind of start to have to be like, all right, come on now.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, no. Well, I mean, that's cool. I'm glad that you found a nice sponsor to take you under their wing, and you know, it all worked out for you. I mean, it sounds good.
Yeah, that's something too. I've heard a lot of stories of people that have had really hard sponsors. You know?
Yeah. I hate it for people, you know, when they have bad experience with all this stuff.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, lots of people that like friends and stuff, you know, have a hard time with their sponsors, but you know, that's why everybody, you know, can be so supportive. I love our Instagram, like our falconry, you know, on Instagram. I feel like we have so many, you know, internet friends, you know, that are so supportive. At least like that's how I've met everybody that I've ever hunted with is, you know, through Instagram. Jeff Fincher, David Hudson, you know, obviously Casey, you know, like all these guys, you know, obviously Teddy I met in person, but through Casey, and you know, all these people that, you know, can come around and like be supportive and be a good team. You know, obviously there's a lot of drama on Instagram, a bunch of crap going on, but you know, the good people are there for you, you know? And so regardless if you have a sponsor that, you know, maybe a pain in the butt, you know, a real pain in the butt, like I would always encourage people to, you know, reach out to other falconers, you know, ask questions, because, you know, for me, like I always want to help people, you know, so I would 100% welcome a, you know, Instagram message. You know, I'll answer any questions anybody has. You know, just be supportive to people, because it's a sport that we want to carry on, you know, not be stingy about. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think it's, I mean, along the same lines, I mean, I think it's very important for people to go the extra mile too, and not just ask any random person to be a sponsor too.
Yeah.
Like it's just as important for any particular apprentice or any particular pre-apprentice or whatever terminology you want to use,
right,
prospective person that wants to get into the sport, they really need to do their part too, and really need to understand that it's not just about finding somebody that's knowledgeable.
Yeah.
It's about finding somebody too that's the right fit for your personality, has the right amount of patience that they're going to need to, because some people are going to need their hand held way more than others.
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And not everybody is going to be automatically a good fit for every person.
Right.
And I don't think people always take that into consideration. They get tunnel vision and they want to just get into it, and they're just like, whatever.
Anybody,
yeah. And so, well, I mean, as far as, the next topic of conversation, I mean, we've already kind of mentioned these dogs, right?
Yeah.
And I really want to, ask you, kind of what your experiences have been with some of these dachshunds, and just what in particular about dachshunds attracted you to the breed and wanted, to incorporate them into your falconry.
Yeah. So originally just like knowing of dachshunds and falconry was just kind of like a brief, like knowing that they existed, that people liked them. It really didn't start until I met Teddy Moritz, and we were hunting together in Maryland, and she watched me fly my bird, and she walked right up to me. She said, "You need a dachshund." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever you say." It's Teddy, and we talked for hours. I was so blessed. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, Teddy talked to you the whole time," and I was just like, I was just so blessed by it. She is such a phenomenal woman. I adore her. And she just talked it up, talked about the benefits of the dogs and the benefits of the breed. And she, I left there and she said, "We'll get you a dachshund." I said, "Okay." About 3 days later, she calls me and she says, "Call Jill. You got a dog." And I was like, "What?" I was not even ready for it. Like I said, I wanted a dachshund, but didn't think that I would actually get one, not like that. And then it just happened. I got my first dachshund. His name was Quick Draw. And the day I brought him home, I said, I will never have another dog but this dog, but a dachshund, just the breed. And I had labs my whole life growing up, love labs, but, not falconry dogs at all. And some people have used them or mixed breeds, all dogs can have a game drive for sure. People have been successful with them, but for the most part, labs aren't it. And so I brought Quick home and started training him. And I was so blown away by their natural instincts and the way that they run game, even as like a 16-week-old puppy, I drag a rabbit and hide it, and his nose is to the ground following that trail. And I just fell in love with it. I absolutely fell in love with it. I love watching it. I love when you watch them, veer away from the trail and all of a sudden their head snaps back and it hits that trail and then boom, they're on their way, It's just such a thrilling experience to watch and understand, and watch them get excited, and so I fell in love with it. And my first year or first season with Quick, my game numbers tripled. Before I was always just by myself. I hunt by myself most of the time. I've had a couple people out, here and there, but for the most part, I'm, out every day by myself. And, your East Tennessee is thick. You're hunting just thick briars, it's a lot like here, but, New Jersey, but much more dense. And so, you're out there, the rabbit just, moves 5 feet to the right, never even moves, you're beating your heart out, trying to get the rabbits to move. Adding that dachshund to it and watching him actually work the game, not just running haywire, he's actually following the trails and working it and reflushing. My numbers tripled in that first year. And I was just, every hunting experience that I would have with the dog and the hair's hawk was what I was flying with him. Excuse me. I would come away smiling, just 100%, so happy. Even being by myself, and I always think that's crazy, I think that just shows your passion. It's like, I'll be in the woods by myself, just beaming ear to ear, watching the bird and the dog work together as a team. My heart just thunders for it. I love it. So yeah, that dachshund, he passed away in February 13th. He got hit by a car. And broke my heart for sure. That was definitely, no matter what bird I've lost, losing that dog was the absolute worst.
I bet.
Yeah, it took me a long time not to cry over it, and I think the way that I've been able to explain it, because, a lot of people that you talk to, like, they don't understand the passion that you have for a hunting dog. Hunting dogs are different than pets. You can say your pet means a whole lot to you, but I promise you there is a difference in a hunting dog. And I think that is because our hearts beat for the same passion, and that is pursuing game. And when every day or, every other day as much as you can, you're getting out in the woods and you're happy, both of you are happy just being there, just being alive, chasing game. It's such a different bond with a hunting dog than it ever could be with a pet.
It's an extra layer.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. And, and there's just something that is just really neat about anytime. I know I always giggle, and even my wife is starting to kind of understand a little bit. Like, it's funny because you'll be watching like a video, right? And you'll be sitting at home, and both of those dachshunds will just be laying down, just being lazy asses or whatever. And they'll just be laying down, chilling or whatever, and then you'll have the volume up on your phone, and the video, be like ho 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 on the video, and then those dogs,
up.
they just, their head snaps up, and they're looking around, and I'm just like, you really expect a rabbit to just run across the living room floor right now? It's just one of those, but they don't care. It's like an instant, like, innate reaction, and they're like that, and they're that enthusiastic because of you and your drive and getting them, into all of these different hunting situations. And it's an extra layer of a bond that even just traditional, like you were saying, just traditional pet owners, they're not going to be able to relate to.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be able to necessarily relate to that next level of, those experiences that you have with this animal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't. Like I said, your hearts beat for the same passion. That's just something. Until you have a hunting dog and you actually, you're out there pursuing game, you just can't quite understand.
No. Well, and so that brings me. I need to ask you these same questions that I've been asking everybody else. And the first thing is so how many dachshunds have you had now? Like 3?
Yeah, 3.
Okay. So what age do you think is the best time to bring a dachshund puppy home from a breeder? And what have you done personally to mitigate the fact that it seems like it's pretty much impossible to ever completely housebreak these things?
So I would say people have very different opinions, obviously, on bringing a dog home, at what age.
Exactly. That's why I've been asking everybody.
Yeah. To be honest, I would say because I've only brought 2 puppies home. Zing, she's my 5-year-old dachshund. I kind of adopted her at, she had just turned 5 or was just turning 5. But I've only brought 2 puppies home. Quick, I brought home at 12 weeks, almost 13 weeks. And then, let's see, Tango, I got him right at 10 weeks. Tango's, so I don't know if I'm the person to ask about it too. That's why I was going with it. But Quick was very confident, being older, and Tango's a little bit more reserved. And I don't know if that's personality or if it is what age to bring it home. I will say, Quick was. They are all a pain in the butt to house train. All of them. I don't care how old they are. They're a pain in the butt. But Quick, I was able to, since he was a little bit older, I was able to get him housebroke a little bit faster, I think. Tango's he's still learning, and lots of people have different tactics, I guess, of housebreaking these dogs, And I don't know what other people say. For everything that I've heard about dachshunds is you don't hit them, But I like housebreaking. That's the only time that I've been like, you. That's how I broke Quick. He would pee in the house, and I figured it out. It was a dominant thing. Is that he started peeing in the house because it was a dominance, and he would do it against. I had the lab, and he'd do it. And the last time he ever peed in the house, I took his face and put it in it and smacked him, and that was it, like, done deal. So, and that's also a dog personality thing too, of like what you're gonna,
Well, yeah, because I mean, dogs can be dog dominant, but then human submissive, and then you get some dogs that like one of the worst combos is like, when they're dog dominant and human dominant.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the worst types of dog personalities to try and deal with.
They are so difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like your experience then is pretty similar to the majority of the people that I've talked to. And, I mentioned a few times already, but I mean, for my males, I mean, I went to like, so my first dachshund, Hades, my oldest one who just now turned 2, both of my dachshunds are actually, they were born a year apart, but their birthdays are only about a week apart from each other.
Okay.
So one was born mid-August, the other was born like August 31st. So anyway, the older dachshund that I have, Hades, my black and tan, the guy that, Dave Feliciano's dog, Biggie, is his sire. So he's the one that gave me the idea about using the belly bands. Mm-hmm. And so since I've started using the belly bands with both of my males, it's like, it was like, it's been amazing because both of my males, I mean, started marking like 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
the one thing I was going to say too about dachshunds now, and I've had Zing too. So I've had 2 males and a female. They are very dominant, but also like, they're just very stubborn and I think a little vindictive, like Zing will pee just out of spite, and I think that's great. Like, you can tell too, for a fact they don't have to go to the bathroom. She pee in her kennel, whoever it is, all of them have done it. Mm-hmm. It's like, you piss them off,
Yep.
Like they are so vindictive. I think that's a crazy personality trait about a dachshund too. I've heard that from a lot of people too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, completely agree. I always joke, and I've joked before on a few of these other episodes, that it's the German in them.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm part German. My wife's total German. I mean, I have lots of German people in my life I love to death, but so it's a joke. And I think they all would admit that exactly. It's where the major stubbornness comes from. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there are days where it is, like you said, it's so obvious. You do something, or they want something, mm-hmm. or want to be able to do something, or whatever, and yeah, it's just like you come back in. Holders. Yeah, yeah, and it's so funny too, because that they can be perfect with it if they want to be.
Oh yeah, they're such great. I love this breed so much. They are so adaptable mm-hmm. to everything that you throw at them. All 3 of my dogs I've had out paddleboarding. Anything on the water, they're totally cool with. Anything that you throw their way, they adapt to. So it's like, however you piss them off is just them saying like, screw you, mm-hmm. just because they can, mm-hmm. Little grudge holders.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I just love how you'll take them outside, and there's a lot of times where I just have to out stubborn mine.
Yeah.
And, just wait. And I'll just stand out there for 10, 15 minutes waiting for them to go to the bathroom and go to potty and stuff. Yep. And they'll just stare up at you the whole time. Just sit there and look up at you, whatever. And it's like, can we go back inside now? No, we can't. You're going to go. And I know what you're doing. But, my wife still falls for it some too. She'll just bring it back. It wouldn't go. I'm like, yeah, you didn't wait long enough. Yeah. And sure enough, you come back inside, and 5 minutes later, there's some nuggets laying on the floor. It's frustrating. But yeah. But, well, I mean, it sounds like then, okay, well, that's been the general consensus so far. Yeah, I mean, like, I know what like Teddy does and some other people do, as far as, I mean, they don't even have theirs inside or whatever. And that's, that's a whole other solution in and of itself for sure. But yeah, I mean, are you going to pretty much just keep to like a brace of them, or are you planning on adding any more? Or?
So far I'm just going to keep these 2.
It's enough, isn't it?
Yeah, it's enough. Yeah. Especially now I got Zing. Like I said, she's 5. She's a finished rabbit dog. She has her field championship, but she's had no formal training whatsoever. So, I'm having to train her and to pull out her natural instincts, because right now, like, you drag a rabbit through the yard, she'll run like a crazy dog, running everywhere. Like she's looking up, looking over, doesn't have any formal training. Tango, I've obviously, since I got him dragging rabbits, he puts his nose right down to it, so he's well on his way. Zing, I still have to work a lot on, but she's doing a lot better. But like I said, she just had no formal training. I taught her how to sit, she came to me and, I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I got this crazy dog, but I think she'll end up being a really good dog. Both of them have, incredible, they growl at each other. Both of them have incredible drive. They'll fight over a rabbit carcass, that I've got in the backyard. So I'm excited to see that, because I've released a baggie, and my boyfriend and I went, picked it up, brought it back to the house. I was like, here, we're gonna release this baggie and help Zing to practice. It was maybe 30 seconds, not even. It was probably 15 seconds. She ran that trail, grabbed that rabbit, dead, just snapped its back, and I was just like, oh my God. We both like staring at each other like, that just happened so fast. We've expected the rabbit to run farther, and she's got a good drive. Like I am really excited to see her in the field. She just has got to get that training, versus like Tango. He's going to be incredible, because I started him at a very young age, and correcting him if he's off the trail, and encouraging him when he's on the trail. And so just he's being trained the way that they all should be trained. And I really do believe that. Like, if you get a dachshund, that dog needs to be hunting several times a week, because otherwise they are not anybody. If you ever ask it, like a pet owner, like, oh yeah, I had a weenie dog, that thing bit everybody. He was so fat. That's the story everybody has, but these dogs were bred to hunt. And so if they don't have that outlet, then they're going to act out, They have to have the outlet to hunt. And that's what, like, I learned as soon as I got quick, watching him work and everything, and just realizing, like, these are the best dogs, but it's like a bird, same thing. Like, why would you keep an animal that is meant to hunt its heart out, if you're not going to hunt its heart out for it, and be that support to it. So yeah, these dogs, like, they've got to hunt. It's what they were bred for. It's what they're meant to do. It's what their heart beats for.
Yeah, and I know that for mine too. I mean, my older one in particular, it was an issue with him, and stuff. Also, was that, I mean, it took a while to build his confidence up, because it's not always created equal either.
Oh yeah,
and that's why I know that, like, for me, I won't probably ever buy a dachshund puppy that didn't come from a Falconer breeder.
100%.
Because the one thing that was the noticeable difference between Horace and Hades was Horace, I mean, the breeder was working with him and rabbits from like 8 weeks on.
Yeah.
And, they were putting rabbits out. I mean, the confidence was already being built, and that foundation was already being established. Not to mention that he was already working on crate training and housebreaking and things like that.
That's awesome.
So from the start. And, Hades didn't get that.
Yeah.
I mean, Hades, not saying that didn't come from good bloodlines, and it definitely came from some falconry dog bloodlines, but wasn't getting all that introductory stuff. And so that whole first season and into half of the next, he just wouldn't leave my heels. He just stand next to me the whole time.
Yeah.
He didn't have any confidence to range out and do his thing. But once I finally got him out of his shell, he caught up, and then they both were kind of feeding. That's a big reason why I ended up getting the other pup, was because it kind of helped break the other one out of his shell a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, I mean, so is that basically what you were doing to train yours and get yours going? Is just basically dragging rabbits and then? Yeah,
that's what I've done. Whether it's, dragging them through the yard and hiding them, under the shed, or, the the swing set that fell over, you know, like shoving it, anything like that would like mimic, you know, being able to flush a rabbit. There's like a cemetery across the street from my house, so a lot of times I'll go over there and train the dogs, and that's where I fly the birds too, because it's always help, you know, for exercise and stuff whenever I can't hunt. So yeah, just dragging it, and then obviously, you know, getting them out, running the field, even if you're not certain a rabbit's there. And right now it's so, all the foliage and stuff, you know, makes it so hard to even find anything, but just getting them getting their experience of being in the field and all the scents and everything, and then being able to track that rabbit scent that you're dragging, you know, that's how I've done it. I've, you know, I had a few good dogs, you know, so far, and seems to work for what I need them to do, you know.
Well, and that's the other reason why I probably won't get away from the breed for a while either. Yeah. Is because once I got out of my own head a little bit, like I realized that I was way overthinking it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was once I finally figured out that you really don't have to do much of anything. No. You just have to do a couple of very basic things repeatedly over and over again. Yep. And once those things are done, it could be even as simple as even keeping getting like a rabbit and just sticking it in like a small cage or something, and then like dragging or whatever, and then like, you know, just planting it under some stuff. Yeah. And, I mean, all things that could be done as simple as like in your backyard, even. And yeah, I mean, I was just surprised. I was just like, well, duh. You know, I mean, it was nice, and it was kind of refreshing once I figured that out. And once I did, I was able to kind of just get out of their way and just give them the basics that they needed, and then it was fine. By the end of this last season, I mean, it was both of those dogs' first full season. And by the end of it, I was very happy to see, you know, how they had progressed. And then I, you know, had the completely opposite problem, and that then I had to, okay, well, you know, I had a couple of experiences. It's time for, you know, to train with the recall and get the better recall and stuff. Do you use e-collars with yours? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely been a massive impact. I would not go out in the field without an e-collar on a dog. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's just too many things you're calling them away from. You know, coyotes all the time. You know, stupid stuff like deer and turkey. You know, which, you know, most of the time you're, you know, breaking your dogs unless you're Teddy, who like has unlimited access to wild animals all the time. She's always breaking her dogs of like the trash, as she calls it. But you know, for me, like I end up having to break my dogs of trash animals when I'm in the field, you know, so e-collar is 100% the way to do that. Otherwise, you're just screwed. Your dog's gone. Yeah. I've learned, well, I mean, luckily I didn't have to learn the hard way. Yeah, it's always good. And I, you know, it was reaffirmation for me, though. I mean, one of the things that I was told by some other friends, though, is like, it's great. They were glad that I waited until it became a problem to address it, though, because if you start with that too early, you'll never be able to. You'll mess them up. Yep. Yeah. Read the book of the e-collar is what I would say. Like, and I learned that with my first dog, Moose. You know, he was a lab, but he was the first dog I ever trained for duck hunting, actually, and he was the first dog I ever used the e-collar with. And I noticed, and then the next dog that I had, there was somebody else that was like, you know, working with the dog as well, and screwed him up with the e-collar. You know, that is so important, is like reading that pamphlet, you know, listening to other people that are experienced with e-collars too, because, once you screw a dog up on an e-collar, that's it. They're done. Yeah. You know, they'll always be shy of it. And it's a really hard thing to break them of. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess I don't really know of any better way, especially with a stubborn breed like dachshunds. Yeah, I mean, and I would rather, I mean, and I'm sure that part of your motivation for wanting to, you know, once your tragic event happened, I'm sure it was probably a little bit of a, you know, reinforcement that was needed, right? Yeah, 100%. And yeah, with Quick, he, that was just a freak accident. Honestly, it was, we were at the house, and somebody had left the gate open, you know, it was, and there's a field across from my house that we actually would go over and do training and stuff in, or run on groundhogs or something like that, you know, in the summertime. and the gate was left open, and he was on his way. He was going to go hunt, no matter where I was, those dogs hunt, so he shot across the road, and then that was it, and yeah, like I said, that such a freak accident because nobody ever goes through that gate too, and yeah, just so no e-collar, nothing like that I had any control,
Yeah.
it was just.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have helped, obviously, in that situation.
Yeah,
but I mean, but yeah, I
still,
mean,
like 100%, you've got to have control of your dog.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the field hunting anywhere close to even a private road, you've got to be so careful because people fly. Your dog's running toward the road. You've got to have control over that dog, or you're going to lose it. So yeah, I will always preach an e-collar. Yeah.
I'm right there with you. I think it's very important, and everybody can do what they want with their own dogs. But yeah, there's no way that I would never run mine without them. Then.
Nah.
And I mean, even in my backyard, I made the mistake one night. A little bit of a funny story here. I let mine out because I saw a rabbit go underneath one of my father-in-law's junk cars that's on our property.
Yeah.
And some rabbits have nested under one of them. And I saw one go underneath this one, like one of the Buick or whatever. And I let both of mine out. And I was kind of excited. I wanted to get them a little bit of exercise or whatever, and just, have a little bit of fun. So I let them out, and I let them out without their e-collars on. And Horace, he got under the car and was just barking and barking and barking and barking. I had to call my wife, and I told her to bring one of the frozen rabbits in the freezer out to me. And I'm like, belly down in the grass with this frozen rabbit, underneath the car, trying to dangle it under there, to get his attention. And he just does not care. I mean, he is just barking and barking and working this rabbit that's underneath this car. It was about 20 minutes of just dirt and sweat and frustration.
Yeah.
Finally got him to come out. And I was just like, yeah, well, lesson learned there. I'm not not even if it's just in my backyard.
Yeah.
E-collars, if they're off leash,
yeah,
but
100%.
But yeah, I'm sure it was a scene, having my white legs out from under this Buick, just kind of kicking and just trying to squirm. And, my left side and ribs are starting to cramp because I'm, trying to wave this frozen rabbit under this car and everything else. Yeah, I was pissed. Anyway.
I feel like anytime we're trying to get an animal back, whether it's a dog or a bird, we just look like complete idiots. Anybody driving by, see us, whistling, throwing a lure or something like that. Like, what the heck is that person doing? We always look insane.
Oh yeah. Well, and my backyard, it butts up against a fence, and it's right next to a fairly busy like highway that goes all the way through town.
Yeah.
And one of my last birds, I was trying to set up a do like a mock squirrel setup. Yeah. So, I've got a frozen squirrel, tied to a string, and I'm trying to toss it up and over a limb and, failing miserably, so I'm like, I'm sure that everybody's driving by seeing this crazy dude toss a squirrel up in the air, and just trying to get it over a tree branch and whatever. And I'm sure that was fun to watch too. But anyway, I'm not ashamed to admit how stupid I look in a lot of this stuff. So
I'm not either. I don't care. That's the thing, you're jumping out of the car, picking up fresh roadkill. Everybody looks at you crazy. But hey, you got to get that fresh meat. Everybody needs to stock their freezer.
As long as it's fresh. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you just saw it get run over or whatever, all the power to you, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's the most exciting thing. You see a squirrel get hit, and you're like, yeah, it's like Christmas.
Yeah, that's like at least 3 to 4 days worth of food right there.
Yeah.
They can be picking it clean for a while. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. No, but I guess now we can kind of go to the other fun part of the conversation. And I mean, you've already told a few good stories and stuff or whatever, but like, what's been like one of your most memorable, hunting stories or experience with bird, dog, whatever?
Yeah. I
mean, that comes to mind for you.
I've definitely have some fun. Like I said, I always hunt by myself. So, I wish that I had. I hopefully will do better this year with the GoPro, so I can take better videos and everything and share those kind of fun stories and exciting hunts. But there's one in particular that was Just it was so exhilarating, so much fun by myself. So I was hunting this. It's in the like hardwoods, but like some brushy areas, around the edges of it. And I've got the dachshund, the Harris hawk, and the Harris hawk was in his. Let's see, when was it? Yeah, Harris hawk was in his second season. Dog was in his first season, and so it's a hill, and we flush this rabbit from the bottom of the hill, and it goes shooting straight up. Obviously, hawks flying through the woods, dogs, opening. He's crying his heart out, running as fast as he can. I'm running up the hill. We run all the way up. There's a little tiny brush pile, and this is kind of the fun, frustrating thing about flying a Harris too. Like especially a male Harris, are the misses or the shyness from diving in the brush and stuff. And we run all the way up this hill. We're stopping, I'm panting, I can't breathe, you're running with all your gear on, and dog flushes the rabbit. So it's a reflush, back down the hill the rabbit goes. We're all running, birds flying, dogs running, I'm running. And the dog, the way that he was, the way that they open their crying, running after game, that sound, it hit my heart, and I was smiling ear to ear, just running through the woods, like not a care in the world, but chasing a bunny, it was so much freaking fun. And to be able to just to share that with the animals too, and, you can feel everybody's drive, just going for it. And back down we go, chasing the rabbit. Hawk misses, dog reflushes again, back up the other side of the hill. So rabbit runs, you can't see anything, we're running. All of a sudden the dog stops and he's at a log, and rabbits do run into logs, but from where I am, there's rarely any time that I've gotten a rabbit out of a log. It's very, for whatever reason, they have so much other cover that they're not going to choose the log. But he stops, he's at the log, he's going crazy, and bird's right there, and your heart's just beating, you can't breathe, it's cold, sweating your butt off, and out he goes in the log, just perfect like a dachshund, just right through it. Out pops that rabbit. Back down the hill we all go. Bird slams the rabbit just at the very last minute, like on a curve. And it was, you hear that rabbit scream at the end. You just want to fall to your knees. You're so excited, after, especially, this was, I say it in a fast way, but this is like a 25-minute chase,
Sure,
going up and down this, the hill of this mountain. And I just remember hearing the dachshund cry, and like I said, smiling ear to ear, running through the woods, just, you feel as free as you possibly can, and just totally enveloped in nature, part of just a natural experience of, predator on prey. I love it. I think it is the coolest thing. And so Harris caught the rabbit. That dachshund, he was so mad, because he chased that rabbit so hard. He comes running in. The Harris was super good too. He was never, they never had aggression toward each other. He was very tolerant. I don't know how I lucked out with him. He is so tolerant to the dog. And, they come in, they're both going crazy at it. And, I love that part of the hunt too, where you sit down on your butt and, cut into the rabbit, let them both, eat up on it. And, everybody has just the biggest sigh of relief, because you made it, you got it, especially after putting in so much effort to get it. So I would say, just that is one of the most memorable hunts. I've had so many like that. I wish I had other people there to experience it with me, because it sounds so crazy when you're saying it, but yeah, just that thrill of the chase, being a part of that predator on prey chase is just, I love it. Something I will always keep a part of my life for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason why I've said before. I mean, that's a big reason why I've really come to like squirrel hawking and stuff too, is because it lasts sometimes 30 minutes to an hour,
yeah.
And getting to just have that prolonged experience of that, that whole setup and that whole scenario, it's just, Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's hard to explain. And
you what? I think the coolest thing, like, I keep trying to get the point across, but I'm horrible at it. Watching the animals figure it out. That's why I love it. You're watching, like squirrel hawking, you're watching the red tail, and, sometimes you're cussing it out, because you're like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. But, you look up and you're watching them figure out, how best to get the squirrel. You see your dachshunds running a trail, and you watch them figure it out. I think that's why I love training new birds too. Whenever you see that light come on in their eyes where they're like, okay, I got you. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the most exhilarating things about the sport.
Yeah. And seeing that transition from a bird that is likely to fly off at any given moment from like a few hunts later to like is really watching you intently.
Yeah. You see that wild like change out of their eyes, mm-hmm. Where they all of a sudden they're, more docile because they're like, this is a partner, this is what I need. You can see the intelligence start to come out. Oh yeah. I love it. It's so cool. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's killer, man. That's killer. No, that's good stuff. Like I said, I look forward. I mean, hopefully maybe, I don't know, maybe next season. One of the things that I've enjoyed about having these dogs also is like running them with my other buddies' dachshunds and stuff too. We're going to have to try and figure out a way where we can get like, just the whole herd of wieners, running and stuff. Like I said, I love like my buddy Kirk and like my buddy Kevin who bred Horace and I love running my dogs with theirs because it's so fun watching 4 of these little guys or even more and the competition
running around everywhere and making chaos and stuff and
that's awesome.
And hearing like 4 of them just just this chorus chorus of barks and excitedness, just it's pretty awesome. So hopefully we can find a way to make that happen next season or something. Yeah, 100%. I drove 12 hours up here, so let me know. I'll drive up to Indiana. Well, after we get done with this, I'll try and figure out a way. Yeah, you're welcome up anytime. Yeah. I mean, we've got a fun group, and maybe sometime this next season, if I make it down to Finchers or make a circuit around over to where you're 100%. At and stuff too, or whatever, we'll figure out a way to make it happen. But yeah. So I mean, before we end though, I want to get your piece of advice. I mean, you've already had some good nuggets in this conversation, but I mean, what do you think has been one of the biggest pieces of advice or lessons that you've learned that you would like to to pass on to other people? And before we call this good, I would say biggest thing about it is keep a humble heart. Don't let your pride get in the way because you'll shoot yourself in the foot about it. If you're stubborn and not listening to other people, like I was saying earlier in the conversation, everybody has something to give. Keep your ears open, keep your heart humble, just listen. If you don't like something, keep your mouth shut. Doesn't matter. It's somebody else's opinion, but everybody has something to offer. And I have learned so much through the years. There's so many contacts and falconers that I've met that, maybe even some I don't necessarily, 100% like or whatnot, but you can always learn more. There's always opportunity to learn. I would say that about anything in life, really, but especially with falconry. Keep your ears open, keep a humble heart. Yeah, and even if it's people that you don't necessarily agree with or, particularly or your cup of tea or whatever. Yeah. I mean, sometimes some of the most important lessons you can learn are from those type of people. Because if nothing else, it reminds you of the things that you don't want to do yourself. Exactly. And the things that, that irk you. So it makes you conscientious and aware of how you're acting and you're behaving and makes you more considerate, I think, of others, and stuff too. Yep. So. No doubt. Well, cool. I mean, thank you so much for making this trip. I mean, thank you for having me. I love it. No, this has been fantastic. And, like I said, I don't feel quite as bad now knowing that you were able to make a weekend of this and you didn't make a 12-hour drive just for me and the podcast and stuff, but you're good. But no, like I said, I mean, I appreciate you coming, and I hope this was fun for you at least. Absolutely. Thank you. Awesome. Appreciate you. All right. Thanks.